What's going on, people? It's GBP baby. Welcome to another video. It's currently 6:32 p.m. on Sunday the 9th of July. And yeah, last week we had quite a wicked week, especially with non-farm payroll. We had a nice consolidation for the first 3 days, and then Thursday and Friday is when it really started to get quite busy, so to speak. But yeah, this is our weekly DXY right now. You can see that we've turned around, we've traded through this fair value gap twice now. Wick through it here, wick through it again, and now we have this big bearish candle that's just closed below this low. So I have already done my markings for this for DXY. So on the weekly, I have my eyes set on this sell side liquidity. I'd like to see us reach down into this, and I've also marked out the weekly bullish order block open, because I anticipate price to find some kind of resistance. Support. I anticipate price to find some kind of support once it reaches this level. When it comes to looking at the weekly candles though, it's important to remember that when we're looking at the weekly, we're not necessarily looking to where it's going to trade to. We just need to know whether it's going to be an up close week or a down close week. And I'm anticipating price to give us a down close week, especially after the amount of bearishness we witnessed last week, or this week, so to speak. So we'll drop down to the daily and we can have a better look. There's that same fair value gap I had marked out, and let me just take off these daily dividers really quickly because it's gonna get in the way. There we go. So you can see how we traded back into it here on the Thursday, and then we turned around, price kissed it goodbye, and then traded straight down, and now it's running into that south side liquidity. So I'm going to just clear this box really quickly, and I'm going to just run through what I have marked out here. So I've marked out this inverted fair value gap all the way back from 23rd of June. So we've traded on the upside, we traded through it on the upside, downside, upside again, and then only now have we just passed through it on the downside. So this should now act as a bearish fair value gap, meaning that if price trades back up into it or anywhere near it, I want to see resistance get shown to support lower prices. You can see that we also traded through this low. So if anything, realistically, this fair value gap isn't the next PD area I'd be necessarily focusing on in terms of buy side. It'd probably be, in terms of above market price. So from this, looking at PD arrays that are above current price, which is here, although we have this daily fair value gap, this wick I do have my eyes on, and once I drop down to the 4 hour, it'll be much more clearer on what I mean by that. But yeah, you can see that we're trading through this bullish order block now, and this week I want to see us continue to push lower, and we have this fair value gap that I have had marked out for a while now. Let's make it a little bit brighter. But yeah, I'm anticipating price to want to draw into this fair value gap. Let's make that 50%. Cool. And then obviously we have this sell side liquidity resting below this, which was made on Thursday, 23rd of June, 22nd of June even. So yeah, let's drop down to the 4 hour and we can have a better look. So this was last week. You can see we consolidated Monday through Tuesday. This was my first time in the markets experiencing a Independence Day, so it was nice to see how quiet the markets were on Tuesday. And now for next year, I'll know what to anticipate in terms of when we've got holidays such as Independence Day. Wednesday, we traded higher. This is the manipulation of the week, and then you can see we traded up, taking out a high here and here as well. So we took out buy stops, and then you can see we broke down aggressively, running into Friday's non-farm payroll. Seeing a week like this, you see that most of the work was done Wednesday, Thursday and Friday, because usually it's that the high is made on the Monday or Tuesday, and then the low will be made around Thursday into Friday. But because of the holiday, you can see how that was all pushed to the very end of the week, where we actually got most price action. It's also nice to recognize that we have this swing high that was created on the Monday, and price took out that, and then we went for the swing low. So I think it's necessary that we acknowledge how, buy side was taken, and then after that we anticipate sell side being taken. So I'll show you what I have marked out on the 4 hour. You see there's a lot more. I have this daily fair value gap. This is from the time frame above. I'll just quickly show you again. That's that same box there. And then I've also marked out this 4-hour inverted order block. Remember, inverted order block, that's my own term, as in ICT hasn't directly taught this. However, I've recognized this within my own research, so that's why I've marked this out. So you can see that this was a bullish order block and we've traded through it here, which means that if price returns to it, I'd want to see this act as a bearish order block, which is why I've called it an inverted order block, and it's on the 4-hour as well. I've also marked out the 50% level of this long wick, which has created a low, which we also took out, and I've marked out the consequent encroachment of that, which happens to be the 50% level of that order block. So this is where I'd like to see the high of the week get made. As soon as price starts trading up around into here, I'd like to start looking for sales on dollar and obviously longs on any of the major currency pairs such as GBP, USD or Euro. We also have this inverted fair value gap on the 4-hour. Why is it inverted? We have it down. It was delivered on the sell side, then the buy side. So now this should technically act as support, and that's why I'm saying I wouldn't be surprised if price consolidated between these two levels before breaking lower and running into the sell side liquidity we have resting down below here. So I'm only going to go down to the 4-hour with dollar. I just use dollar for reference. Overall, obviously, I'm expecting lower dollar. If you look at my last week's review, I was pretty much expecting the same thing, as in lower dollar. So it's nice to see that price is staying consistent with my expectations. And yeah, we'll go over to Euro now, and I think I already have my markings out over there as well. So I'll start with the weekly, and then we can work our way down. So on the weekly, I've marked out this buy side liquidity resting here. We didn't actually touch it, although we were close to it. We didn't actually reach it. Dollar did reach a low, did take out its equivalent low. However, Euro has failed to reach that, so I'm expecting that to get taken in the new week. I've also marked out a weekly bearish order block. That's this dashed line going across here, and then I've got this buy side liquidity up here I'd like to see us trade into, and a rejection block. Why is this a rejection block? Because this long wick, you can see how when price traded into it last time, and I'm talking about this wick here, when price traded into it, price rejected, which means when price does reach up there again, I'm expecting some kind of resistance, or price want to turn around, not completely turn around, but you know, I'm expecting resistance to be met once we hit that rejection open. But yeah, the open of the rejection block. Let's go to daily. On the daily, you can see we obviously pushed much higher. On the Friday, same as dollar, just obviously reversed, took out buy side here, and just fell short of the buy side liquidity I have marked out here. So that's what I'd like to see us aim for. When I drop down to the 4-hour, I start to have all my PD arrays marked out. So I've marked out this inverted order block. This is same as what I did on dollar, same as what I done on dollar basically. This was a bearish order block, and then I've marked that out, and I'm expecting price once it returns to use this as a springboard to push higher into the buy side liquidity resting here and up here. So I'd like to see price trail down into this, where I can start looking for buys, and then price to push higher and run into the buy side liquidity and that order block I had marked out on the weekly. And obviously we have this buy side liquidity up here as well. Whether price will reach up there in the new week, I'm not sure, which is why I've just got it as like a further target. But first I want to see this buy side liquidity reached and the open of the weekly bearish order block I showed you just before. There's also this massive liquidity void. I've marked out the low, the high of the fair value gap, and then the midpoint, which is here, and then also the 25% level and the 75% level. I've split it into quarters so that I can watch how price, trades around these levels. I want to see how we step down, and the furthest I want to see it go is the 50% level, as in I'd prefer for price not to go any lower than this level here, which is 50% of this gap. I don't really want to see price go below that, so I'm going to keep my eyes on that. But overall, obviously I'm expecting lower dollar, therefore I'm expecting higher euro. And yeah, that's pretty much everything, to be honest. Let me see if there's anything on the hourly. There's obviously a nice fair value gap here and another gap here. You'll notice that this gap is below that 50% level, and also there's no other gaps moving upwards. If this gap gets left open, then I'd then class that as a breakaway gap, which would then encourage higher pricing and which is what I want to see. Another thing I recognized is we can look at how this acts as a measured move. I'll just show you now. I forgot where I put the levels. Oh yeah, so if we go to the daily, and look at the order block, these 3 down consecutive candles, 1, 2 and 3, act as a bullish order block. So as soon as this day closed on Friday, these 3 candles become a bullish order block because we have a change in the state of delivery. So we're now looking for buy side, hence we've got this marked out and this marked out, and obviously this rejection block here. Because of that, that makes this the order block for the move up. So what I've done is what you can do is to find a measured move is mark the low to the high of the order block, and you can see that it's casted up. I've got it casting 1 standard deviation above, so I've got the range here, and then when I double that range up to -1, it lines up perfectly with the rejection block opening from over here. So once I drop down back to my hourly, I can start to see where I want to see price draw to and where it's likely to consolidate. For example, we traded up to the -0.5% level, and look what's happened. You can see that we consolidated around there, and it also lines up perfectly with the buy side liquidity. So we can anticipate the -1 to get traded to, which is adding confluence as to why I'd like to see us push higher and start to run into that rejection block. But yeah, that's just something to take note of. And yeah, it adds confluence at the end of the day, as in it adds reason as to why I'm expecting a bigger push on euro. CPI is this week. CPI is on the Wednesday, which is here. Obviously we'll see where price is. I'd like to see the low get made either Monday, Tuesday. I don't trade Mondays, but obviously after Monday's review, we'll have a much more clearer idea of what to expect, what to anticipate. And yeah, that's pretty much everything. I'm not looking at, well, actually, should we have a look at GBP? We can look at GBP, why not? But GBP is pretty similar in terms of we traded much higher, clearly, aggressively too, took out the high here, and we're starting to run into this weekly fair value gap, which I'd like to start seeing get filled. If we drop down to the daily, I've also marked out the, you can see that we have a wick here, so I'll mark out the consequent encroachment of that. And it looks to me like I have something else marked out on a lower time frame, so we'll look at that in a second. But let's just quickly do this. So that's going to be consequent encroachment. The reason I'm not looking at, I wasn't really looking at pound, it was because euro is most clear to me in terms of what I want to see happening and what I want to anticipate. So I just thought I was going to stick with euro, but we'll have a look at pound as well, because pound's always good fun. And you can see I've also marked out, so yeah, the consequent encroachment of this is lined up with, is pretty much the same as this by the looks of things. Let me just get rid of this. Oop. And you'll see that there's a massive fair value gap created on pound here once it rushed into the weekly fair value gap. So what am I anticipating with pound? Pretty much the same. I'd like to see some kind of retracement lower. This blue box is the 4-hour fair value gap. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to mark out the midpoint of that, and I'm going to split it into quarters the same way I did with euro. Shouldn't take too long. 4, 6. And then we've got 1, 3, 5 here. So we'll drop down to the 1 hour. And yeah, so again, I'm looking at the way that this is what you call a graded fair value gap, as in I've got it split into quarters. The lowest I want to see it go is I want volume to stay above the 50% level. So it can wick down, and I'm happy for it to wick down below this low here, which I think it likely will. But other than that, I would like to see volume stay above it, which would then encourage and suggest the idea of higher pricing, which is what I want to see, because this massive weekly fair value gap, as you can see, needs to start getting filled. This darker red I have here is actually delineating a 4-hour fair value gap all the way from, I think it's like September. I'm not going to go to it now, but this is a fair value gap in itself, so I wouldn't be surprised if price wanted to fill that within this week. And then you'll see I've got a little light blue box there, and that's just delineating. I think it's a small fair value gap. I don't know what specifically. I think it's a 1 minute fair value gap even. Yeah, so there's a gap here just below these relative equal lows, which I think price may want to come to. But again, after Monday, we'll have a better look. We'll have a better idea of what's happening. I'm not expecting too much movement on Monday. When you have very big weeks such as these, as in like a lot of expansion happening, especially on the Friday, I'm anticipating Monday to be quiet. And then Tuesday, hopefully the low gets made, and then we can start to see from then on where price wants to expand towards. But yeah, that's pretty much everything, guys. Nothing's really changed. Like if you go to my last week's weekly review, you'll hear the exact same thing as in me wanting to see lower dollar. It's just nice to see that we finally broke lower clearly. We have a nice break in market structure, and you can see that price is clearly reaching for that sell side liquidity now, which means I can start to look for nice longs on euro. And also without it's nice to get through non-farm payroll. Yes, we have CPI, but that shouldn't be too bad. And yeah, that's pretty much everything, guys. Thanks for watching. This has been GBP baby, and I'll catch you tomorrow. Peace.